it's very easy to look at a game like Remnant from the Ashes as another Dark Souls clone. And in a sense, that's correct. But to dismiss it entirely because it's a Dark Souls clone or inspired by Dark Souls, you can choose your wordplay there or your logic. I can see if someone was to tell me I didn't give this game a chance because it looked kind of generic and it also looked like it was copying on the merits of Dark Souls, that formula, which many games have been doing these past few years. It's just a trend that seems to be almost ironclad in success, right? Indie games have been doing it, AAA titles have been doing it. You take the winning formula of an already popular game and then you just incorporate it into your franchise. Unfortunately, this works as a deterrent, especially for people like me who, I get fed up with shit quickly, especially when I feel like it's being forced upon me. I talk about this all the time. Like, this could be politics, this could be entertainment, this could be music. There's always a certain trend that is always pervasive. Is that the word I want to use? Like, it's always present. It's like omnipresent. Like, you go, oh, I see what these people are trying to do. They're copying this success or whatever. And like I said, for some people, that's more than enough for them to jump on board. That's more than enough for them to go like, I hey, in this case with Remnant from the Ashes, it's like some people will think like, hey, I've played Dark Souls before and I loved it. This game is a lot like Dark Souls. Count me in. Great. That's a good way to look at it. But also some people, and I'm more on this side, is like, oh, another Dark Souls clone. Like this is getting a little repetitive. Unfortunately, I don't personally, I don't dismiss games just because they're a lot like other games. I always give it a shot. And to be honest with you, most of the time that pays off. Now, there has been some setbacks, right? Like I have played games that other people have criticized and that they've been panned critically. No one really the general consensus is that no one really likes this game like that. They found it bland or boring or incomplete. You pick your poison. I have played games that people have said they didn't like, and then after an hour or two, I'm like, oh shit, I totally understand why people don't like this. I should have listened. But for the most part, not only do I give it a chance, but I've been rewarded. There's been plenty of games. Like I'll give you one now that I'll probably get crucified for, but what's the name of that game, man? Godfall. Right when this game came out, it was I wouldn't say it was critically panned, but a lot of people didn't like it. Some did, some didn't. Some found it a little short, some found it a little boring. I did find the game short, but it was entertaining for the few hours that I did play it. Actually, not few hours. I actually played it for maybe close to a week, maybe a good 5 days or so. And I played it with a friend, and it was just me and her just running through the game. And we finished it, and we were like, that's pretty short. And, they had end game shit that you can do. And we weren't really interested after a good 5 days. I feel like we got our money's worth. I ended up getting the game on sale. And I remember enjoying it. And the feeling that I got after I walked away playing the game was like, I'm glad I gave this a shot because it was entertaining. Was it revolutionary? No. Did I waste my time? No. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. If there's ever a part two, I'll do the same thing too. If there's ever a Godfall 2, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, it doesn't do well and people pan it, I'll still give it a shot. But the Remnant from the Ashes is one of those games that, like, it can go either way, right? Someone can say, nah, I'm good, and someone can say, sure, sign me up. I gave it the same treatment I gave Godfall on top of other games that I played that people didn't generally like. I try my best not to listen to other people's opinions because people tend to do that groupthink shit. They're real tribal. Especially this is really big in the video game community too, right? Like once a group of gamers or a publication pans something, it's like everyone else kind of follows suit. It's like pile on. This is a thing humans do, and any type of all aspects of life, right? Whether it's business, entertainment, personal, people tend to stay away from whatever has the most n- negative reviews or whatever. So I approached this game carefully and I was like, you know what? Let me give this game a shot, even though I heard it was pretty generic. No one, as far as I'm concerned, no one has told me when I played Remnant a good maybe 4 years ago or so. No one has told me that this game was terrible. They just told me it was kind of generic. I believe that's the general consensus of it. So I gave it a shot and I liked it. I liked it a lot actually, especially when you play with other people. When you play with other people, I think it just enhances the game much more. But to be perfectly honest with you, if I had to play this game solo, I would have enjoyed it too. I think they did a fantastic job, once again, copying or being inspired by, you choose your phrase there, but they did a good job. I'm gonna say replicating the formula of Dark Souls, right? It's essentially Dark Souls with guns. I don't want to just reduce it to that, although that's primarily how I would describe the game. If someone were to say, "Hey, Dan, what's Remnant from the Ashes like?" I would say it's Dark Souls with guns. You can't beat it. You know what I mean? Like it's great. It's fun. It's challenging. It's I I remember replaying this game a lot, replaying the same stages over and over to get I think it was experience points if or some sort of derivative of experience points that you can level your character. I believe, yeah, you can unlock the abilities, you can strengthen guns, I believe. And it was just fun. It was fun just jumping in and playing this game for the several weeks that I did. And I knew this game was good because I have a friend who tends to. He's a huge Destiny 2 guy. He loves Destiny 2. He knows like all the lore. He's been playing this game from like beta or some shit all the way till this day. So like this is the number one game that he plays the most. And I had a feeling he'll like it because it is a shooter. Is also sort of kind of difficult, depending on how good your skills are and, how if you're good with dodging, because in Dark Souls games, there is no substitute for dodging. And, you almost have to have like twitchy reflexes to play games like this, especially like in the later stages. So I kind of used him as a guinea pig. I was like, you know what, my friend here, he's not really big into indie games or any game that isn't like a first person shooter. He'll play other games like Final Fantasy and all that, but all the games he plays are like they're all big mainstream games that are proven to be good games. He doesn't really take any risks with other types of titles, with titles that aren't necessarily favorable in the eyes of the public, and also just indie titles and games that are kind of like they're relatively obscure. He plays it safe and not judging. If you have just a limited amount of time and you want to play something fun, why not go with a game that you know it's going to be fun? I get it, 100%. But I used him as a guinea pig. I said, you know what? If he likes Remnant, then I know I'm on to something. I know this game is actually good, and it isn't just me being biased. Because I'm pretty open minded. I'm generally favorable towards game. I'm not as harsh as a critic as people are. I feel like people are very quick to bring something down, to reduce something. They kind of label it one thing and then never try it. And I hate that way of thinking. I hate that's like groupthink. I hate when someone doesn't think for themselves. Like I believe it was the late great George Carlin that once said, and I'm paraphrasing here. He basically said he hates people, but he loves individuals. That's exactly how I feel. Like I hate groups of people, but I like individuals. I like people who think for themselves, not people who kind of think in a group. That can lead to all sorts of disasters in whatever realm of life you're living in. So he played it. He ended up liking it a lot, and that made me feel good. It made me feel validated. I was like, okay, so I am on to something. It isn't just me being biased, because I know that I'm generally favorable towards games like this. So I take that into consideration when I like recommend games to other friends. I always go like, hey, I like this game. But you know how I am, dude. Like, give it a shot. Let me know. I think I bought it for him. I'm not sure, but I think I wanted him to try it because I believe you can play with up to three people in the group, if I'm not mistaken. Because I remember it was me, him, and my other friend playing. So yeah, I think it's up to three, and I think Remnant 2, which I have not played, but it's 100% on the list. As a matter of fact, that's gonna be my next game after Path of Exile, because I'm currently playing Path of Exile still, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. But I'm reaching the end game now. I'm on close to the last chapters of the game, and I'm basically treating it like if I would be playing a first player story driven game. Like I'm not really treating it as an MMO, or I'm not really focusing on hanging around too long for the end game. I'm just trying to get through all the chapters, and once that's done, I'll move on. So after that's done, Path of Exile, then I'm definitely moving on to Remnant. I'm also still playing Tears of the Kingdom on the side, which I've spoken about in one of my little podcasting videos or whatever you want to call these. I'm still thoroughly enjoying that. That's definitely an end game now. Like right now, I'm just hunting shrines and just exploring the depths. I'm uncovering light shrines and expanding the map in the depths, and that's getting a little tedious to be honest. I find myself playing a game and going like, I kind of don't want to do this. Keep throwing those fucking little bright bloom seeds just so you can see, and then fucking flying face first into walls and shit because you can't see nothing. I'm like, I don't know about this. I think I'm gonna finish this game soon. So it's been a little over 2 months since I've been playing it, and I think it's coming soon. The end for Tears of the Kingdom, but uh, I to be honest with you, I would say my biggest gripe with Remnant would be kind of the lack of originality. Like I love the atmosphere. It was kind of like a post-apocalyptic alien world. It's like very fantastical, but also kind of grounded in reality. So it's like you'll see like an urban city guns that kind of mimic real life guns, but there's also magic and demons and fantasy creatures. And I like the blend. I like the blend of both of them. It was really cool. But that's not what I mean so much by lack of originality. Art wise, it's pretty cool, and also mechanic wise, it's pretty cool. Feels pretty solid. And I can't say anything about game breaking bugs or anything because I haven't experienced anything. Maybe some connectivity issues, but I don't know if that's so much on the coding of the game, the programming of the game, or on my end on the internet side. But by lack of originality, I mean once again we take this segue right back to the Dark Souls formula, a formula that was already created by a from software, and they kind of capitalize, well, not capitalize, they created it, so of course they're going to capitalize on that. But like lots of people are capitalizing on that, lots of video game developers are capitalizing on that, and unfortunately Remnant kind of falls in that category or whatever. That's not necessarily a bad thing if it's implemented correctly, right? Which it is. In this case, I can 100% tell you that Remnant, although it be that it is kind of a Dark Souls clone, it's great. It's a great game by itself. But you can't ignore that, like it might be insulting to the developers or even to some of the mega fans of Remnant, but I don't mean it as an insult. I mean it kind of like as if like, you have to recognize this game's roots. You have to recognize where the inspiration came from. So that's always going to be a talking point. Um, yeah, that's what kind of made me kind of hesitant to try it out in the first place. I was like, I don't know, looks cool and all, but like I definitely see a lot of Dark Souls elements from the Telltale trademark bonfire and Remnant. It's not so much a bonfire. If I remember correctly, maybe there is a fire there, but it's like these geometric stone shapes that kind of form like a bonfire, and then they also serve as a checkpoint, and you can return back to your main base or your central hub, whatever you want to call it, and then you can level up and talk to NPCs that you've rescued and such like that in your little base. But I remember it being like dark and gritty, which I love. Those are my two favorite themes in like any type of medium of entertainment that I could think of, right? From music to video games to books to TV shows. I like dark and gritty. My favorite author is Cormac McCarthy, which recently died. Rest in peace, brah. He gave me some dark, disturbing shit to read. But I always loved those type of books, dark and gritty, because that's part of real life too, right? Like it's very easy for someone else to look at me, someone like me, and be like, oh, that's pretty depressing to be reading about, crime and murder and all sorts of quote unquote negative things. But it's like, dude, that's part of life, right? Like bad shit happens to everyone, even good people. Life takes this turn, kicking us all in the balls, or pussies, or things. But we all get a turn, man. We all get a turn, and I don't like when people just present you the good things in life. Like, oh, this is what happens. You should always be happy. You should always smile. It's like, bro, life is not all like that. We have to take the good with the bad. That comes in a package. You can't just separate one out the package and focus on that. Like, you have to understand that, like, in order for life to be complete, you have to acknowledge the fact that things fuck up. That's just the way it is. So I tend to gravitate towards more stuff like that, more dark and gritty, and Remnant definitely delivers. It makes me feel like shit is fucked up every time you're in a city or in some weird landscape. You're like, damn, things are not good with this climate. Things are pretty messed up. And it gives you kind of a feeling of hopelessness, but also a feeling of like, maybe if I can finish this game, things will change and get better. So like, you are the change, you and your gun and your rolling and all the crazy shit you did in Remnant. I'm trying to remember exactly specific things about the game. It has been a good 4 or 5 years since I last played it, but it's a game that like surprisingly still sticks around in my head from time to time. Whenever you know, I'll be hanging out with a friend who I played it with. Excuse me. And randomly, this person or me would just be like, "Remember Remnant?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, man, that game was fun, man. I heard there's gonna be a part two." And so that goes to show you that like we enjoyed it a lot more than we both thought we did, right? And how exciting is that, right? When you're jumping into something new and you're like, this looks interesting, and then you do it and it's like, bro, it's beyond interesting. This is awesome. Like it exceeded your expectations, and that's Remnant in a nutshell. You know, it is a game that like Dark Souls. That's gonna be like the key word, key phrase here. Dark Souls all the time. You're gonna hear that like 70 times. But it is a lot like that game in the sense that it is a difficult game, and a lot of your survival depends on your reflexes. And if you're one of those people who aren't particularly good at video games, or you aren't particularly, I don't know, you have good reflexes. I was gonna say reflective, but that makes no goddamn sense. If you're someone who doesn't, you're not really twitchy with your gameplay, and you have to have fast responses, like you're not one of those people, you're gonna have a hard time with this game. I'll tell you that right now. So it kind of serves as a deterrent for, dare I say it, like newbies, like people who usually play casual games are gonna have a hard time with this. But you know what though? It kicks your ass, but you like the entire time. You like it the entire time. You're getting your ass whooped, but you're learning and you're getting better. And that's what happened with one of my friends. One of my other friends, the one who played Destiny, he knew what to do. He adapted quickly. But my other friend's not used to playing games like this. Like, she played games that are, you can say, twitchy, definitely twitchy. Like, she was a big CS:GO person at one point. She was like super huge into that. So I was like, yeah, that counts. You know what I mean? You definitely have to be fast and twitchy, and I was gonna say reflective again. You definitely have to have a lot of reflexes. So I'm like, maybe that'll translate well. But it's been so long since she's played those games seriously that when she did play Remnant, she was having trouble with it, naturally so. And I just kept fucking with her, kept telling her to get good, which is, not something you want to tell a really angry female. But she got with it and she ended up liking it. At first she didn't like the fact that she was dying so much because she didn't understand that was part of the process, because she never played Dark Souls. If you play games like Dark Souls, you would understand that dying is 100% part of the process. Like, the developers are like, they implemented death into all of the steps that you take into this game, which is like the opposite of what other games do, right? Like, they're like, you may die. If you're really, really good, you won't die. If you're average, you'll die from time to time, and if you suck, you'll die all the time. But most video gamers are of average skill. Their skill level's pretty average, so most average gamers, or most people who play video games, will die from time to time. So she didn't understand that that was part of the process because she never played Dark Souls, and so she had to learn that too. She had to be okay with death. That sounds deep, right? I'm over here talking about a video game. Sounds like I'm giving you a biblical lecture. But she had to be okay with death. And once she realized, like, yeah, I'm gonna die, like, because there's also that pressure when you're in a team. If I keep dying, I'm the worst one, right? Like, I suck. My team's gonna have to carry me. Which, not for nothing, I kind of did a few times. You know what I mean? Like, that felt good when like both of my teammates were getting clobbered, and I ended up saving the day by single-handedly defeating like a boss or a sub boss or whatever. That felt great. And then vice versa, right? I'm like riding this high. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'm the shit. I'm the best one in the team. And then it's my turn now. Now I'm getting my ass handed to me because my friends went a much smarter route than me by equipping the proper weapons to, complement their skills and all that. And they were just doing fucking great, man. Just gliding and, using potions and revives when and I'm over here still trying to brute force the goddamn boss like I did the last one, and I'm like, okay, I gotta change my approach. But as quickly as how the tides turn, I still enjoyed it because I was like, all right, now it's your guys' time to shine, and I was cool with that. And I was like, I gotta go back to the drawing board, pick a weapon that I like, just focus on this weapon, stop trying to be the jack of all trades, and just focus on mastering a specific set of skills, and then just keep honing these set of skills, and then that'll be my strength in the team. Um, I mean, you can brute force this game. I did it with Neo, and I'll never fucking do that again, dude. I still maintain that Neo, I believe it's Neo, and IOH. I didn't play the second one. I played a little bit of the second one, but I was too scared because I was so traumatized from Neo 1. I still maintain to this day that Neo 1 was the hardest game I've ever played in my life. Like, my friend, one of my other friends, tattoo artist guy, good dude, he rented or bought Neo. I don't remember. He went to GameStop and he got a copy, and he didn't know what he was getting himself into, and he couldn't get out the cell because I believe it's a cell, some sort of a prison or something like that, if I remember correctly. In the very beginning of the game, they give you like this broken sword, I believe, and he could not beat that part for the life of him. He thought there was something wrong. He's like, "What the fuck is up with this game? Like, I can't get past this." And like when I was talking to him, it was funny because his face was so confused. He was like, because he never understood. Once again, if you're someone who's never played Dark Souls, you don't understand that dying and the high level of difficulty. That's part of the process, right? Because video games generally train you not, if you're an average player, you don't die often. So when you play a game where you're dying all the time, you feel like, what the fuck is going on? Is it me? Is it the game? Well, once you accept the fact that death is part of the process, you kind of get cool with it, and then you start to get better because you kind of, it's kind of like a relief almost when you go like, I'm supposed to die. Don't worry, because you died 30 times already, and you're like, I'm supposed to die. I'm gonna get better. Eventually, I'll get better. But anyways, I try to brute force Neo from the beginning all the way to the end. Don't do that. Don't. I've got holes in my apartment wall because of fucking Neo. Not this one. This was quite a few years ago. But I remember just like sweating from playing this game and just punching the nearest wall because I was so fucking upset. Like, I still can't understand how a game can be. I think that was a dog barking. Sorry if you heard that. But I couldn't understand how difficult this game was. And eventually, you know, I finished the game and I told myself never again, to the point where I completely stayed away from Neo 2. I said, no, not again. Maybe in the future I'll do it again. Whatever. But not to sound like a dad, but the most important thing about playing a game is to have fun. And that's what we did with Remnant. We died all the time. I remember while you're going through it, it sucks. You're like, fuck, man, Like, I can't tell you how many times either me or one of my friends in our little group said the classic gamer words, which are just one more time. That one more time at 1 a.m. turns into a one more time at 3:15 a.m., right? 2 hours would just fly right by because you're just dying trying to find new ways to kill this boss. And you get super close to finally finishing, and then you die in the end, and you're like, we got to do that again. This was one of those games where, which Dark Souls is also like, they capitalize on that formula, right? Same thing. It's like, you get this rush of victory when you finally beat a boss that you've been trying to for God knows how many days, hours, hopefully not months in that case. Like, God damn, bro, you got to play something else. But we all got that same type of thrill. And that thrill was like, one more game, one more game, one more game. And that's the most I remember about this game. Mind you, I don't remember much because it was like 4 years ago. So I wish I can get into specifics about mechanics. And I did get into little specifics about graphics. It looks great, at least from what I remember. Game's not that old. So I think it came out 2018. So, it's going to look graphically good or whatever. But that's one thing that I remember the most. It's just the camaraderie, the fact that we all knew we were gonna die, and we just kept playing and playing and playing until we finally beat that section. Till this day, as a matter of fact, just recently, it might have been either today, this morning, or yesterday morning. My friend who I played with the original Remnant said that he's gonna buy Remnant 2 today. And I was like, that's cool. But what sucks is that I no longer have console because I fully switched to PC. He has a PS5 and there's no crossplay from what I heard. So, like, that fucking blows, bro. And it hurts because crossplay, from my understanding at least, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I read online, crossplay is just a strictly business move, right? Like logistically and like technically you can do it. Like every game can be crossplay, but I believe it's a business decision not to make games crossplay because corporations like Sony, Xbox, they want you to buy games on their system. So it's like, hey man, you want to play this game with me? You know, they'll have your friends pressure you, like, well, get an Xbox, get a PS5, which is something he tried to do to me. Mind you, I told him, he tried to pressure me into getting a PS5. I was like, dude, I just sold my PS5 like maybe a year ago. And he was like, man, you should get it so we can play Remnant. I'm like, that's what they want you to do. I know that sounds like some conspiracy theory shit, but it's really not. That's a lot of these companies like Xbox, Microsoft, and Nintendo. They rely on you, especially Nintendo. Like they don't, they just their games are just on Nintendo, unless it's like an indie title or whatever. But they're big smash hits. Their Kirby's, their Links, their Zeldas, their Mario's. All of that shit stays exclusively in Nintendo. But a lot of these companies rely on your friends to like pressure you to go get the game on this console. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not gonna go buy an entire console for Remnant 2. Not, I don't mean that in a bad way because I like Remnant 2, but I'm just saying, like, no other game, even if it's a fucking fantastic game that I really do enjoy, that's in my opinion better than Remnant, whatever that game may be. Like I'm still not gonna go out there and get a console for it. I've done that before. I admit that. I've done that with the Switch. I bought the Switch strictly for Breath of the Wild. So, and that's not my proudest moment. I mean, I don't regret it because I had a lot of good times with the Switch. Although, like, I don't feel like I'm gonna end up keeping it, to be honest, after I finish Tears of the Kingdom. But I do know that I've done it before. I've bought an entire console just to play one specific game, usually console exclusive games. But I did try to like, soften the landing a little bit by telling myself like, well, I can play indies too, because indies are generally not super graphic intensive. So I was like, I can play my indies on the go to, and I have played many an indie on a Nintendo Switch. One of the ones that I had the most fun with was Return of the Obra Dinn, which is like a murder mystery. You play like you got to like solve. You're like a detective. You're not a detective. You work for some company or whatever. Your job is like a detective. You have to piece together what happened on the ship, and a lot of the shit is fantastical. It's very rooted into like these nautical uh tales, like myths or whatever. But it's really cool, really cool. But it was cool that I was playing the Switch for something that I said I was going to originally, which was indies. So I was happy that I at least wasn't bullshitting myself because I was just trying to find any reason I can to just really play Breath of the Wild. I'm excited to play Remnant 2 for sure because I've seen videos of it. It looks better. It looks like it plays better too. So far, it's received generally favorable reviews. It's done numbers wise, like financially, it's done much better than Remnant 1. I believe Remnant 1 sold, I think, don't quote me on this, man. I'm so fucking shitty with numbers. I think it was somewhere along the lines of like 1.6, 1.8 million copies during its lifetime. And Remnant 2 has blown that out of the water in its first week or two or something like that. So Remnant 2 already made as much money as Remnant 1 did in its lifetime. And Remnant 2 is not even done yet. So that's really cool. And it's also really cool to know that the general consensus of Remnant 2 is pretty favorable. So that would lead more people to play it. And considering that it's done so well already, I can 100% see a Remnant 3 in the future, which is like I'm open to. Um, I do hope that you guys give it a shot if you're into difficult games, but just don't go in there thinking it's going to be like some run of the mill shooter and you can just like brute force your way through it. I mean, you can, but you got to be really fucking good, dude. It's a game that it's going to be difficult no matter how you slice it. You're going to die a lot. Understand and accept that, and you will have way more fun with it than you imagine. It's if you see Remnant 1 on sale, grab it for sure because I'm pretty sure even not on sale now, it's not super expensive. Remnant 2, I believe, is like $40. That's its MSRP price, which is like, dude, that's awesome. Considering, we live in a world where, the average game today, at least the average AAA title is like $75 after taxes or whatever. So it's good to know that, you can find a game for a fair price, and it's a great game that has like ridiculous amounts of replayability and fun. So give it a shot. I'm out of here. Hopefully I'll make another one of these soon. I say that all the time and I don't. Maybe if I just throw it in the air, the gods will inspire me. I don't know. Thanks for listening, y'all.